When people say they're moving to Bremerton, they really mean, without knowing it, that they're moving to Kitsap County and all of Kitsap County has to offer. So when they initially start exploring, they choose the obvious spots like downtown or Manette or somewhere like that that has a very catchy name that everybody knows. But they realize later that wasn't what they thought it was going to be. The lifestyle's different, their daily routine, commute is longer, that sort of thing. Because when you're moving here, the neighborhood is only half the decision, and Bremerton is only one of many options. There are so many other options to choose from when you're moving to Kitsap County. When you look at why people move here and where they're moving to, a trend starts to show up. And that's why in this video, I'm breaking down the under the radar pockets around Bremerton, near Bremerton, not quite Bremerton, that feel different, feel like more like something you would want if you're not looking for that super urban downtown vibe. Which areas match your commute if you're driving, if you're taking public transportation, if you're taking the ferry, if you're riding your scooter. And the suburbs that people tend to skip because they're not trendy, but actually could be a really good option for you and your family. Hi, I'm Cassandra Lopez. I make videos all about Bremerton and Kitsap County. I'm also a local top producing real estate broker, helping buyers and sellers buy and sell all over Bremerton and Kitsap County. I'm very direct about the trade-offs, the commute, the total monthly costs that you're committing to, and what you're actually buying long-term. So let's get into the Bremerton suburbs that no one's going to tell you about, but should, and who is buying in these neighborhoods and who is passing. The first neighborhood on our list is Tracyton. As you may know, I live in the Tracyton area. Tracyton, as a snapshot, is in Bremerton. It's an unincorporated Bremerton. It's got a Bremerton address. It has its own teeny tiny little post office that has its own zip code. So if you have a PO box there where you get your mail, you're going to have it sent to Tracyton, Washington, 98390, and that's literally the only spot that has that zip code is that post office, which I find rather entertaining. It's really overlooked because if you drive through Tracyton, so Tracyton Beach Road is really beautiful. It's right along the Port Washington Narrows, and then it kind of cuts back up into the Tracyton neighborhood, and it's not really much to look at from Tracyton Boulevard. It's just kind of like, oh, there's a bar and there's a gas station across the street, but you want to get off the main road. You want to get down towards the water. You want to get up into the little cricks of all the neighborhoods, because that's where you're going to find the charm and the loveliness and the draw that brings people into Tracyton, where they really rarely sell. Some of these waterfront neighborhoods have had people living in them since the homes were built, and they rarely go up for sale. They're usually passed down into the family. Tracyton works well for buyers who want to have a centralized location, but also love the feel of being a little bit separate. You know, the lots aren't huge. There are some like waterfront horse properties, which I also find really cool, but those are going to be a few acres. But for the most part, they're going to be maybe half-acre-ish lots. There are one or two planned unit developments where the lots are teeny tiny, but we're looking at like quarter to half acres going to be your average. So enough room to breathe, enough yard to take care of. Your neighbors aren't right on top of you, but you're still in a neighborhood and you still have a great location access to Silverdale or Bremerton proper. So looking at the last 6 months, what has happened in these neighborhoods? So Tracyton has had 5 homes sell in the last 6 months. That kind of gives you an idea of how low the turnover is and how people really just don't want to move out. Average price point, $739,000. That's of those 5 homes over the last 6 months. And that could range anywhere from homes in the low 4s to $1 million home on either end. Specifically, I know one on Darling that sold for 1.6. So, there are outliers that are going to skew the data, and those 5 homes averaged 34 days on market, which is not terrible, especially in this market. So because Tracyton has a Bremerton address and it's a neighborhood location in Bremerton, it kind of gets overlooked because it's actually pretty small. You could drive right through it and not even know. It's like you go from, say you're driving up from Lions Field into Silverdale and you drive right through Tracyton, where you just missed it because you just blinked. It was very, very small community. It's a small section of East Central Kitsap. And because it's got such a low turnover, listings can be scarce. A lot of times with these older homes that are maybe mid-century, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the families have lived in them for decades, maybe they're not fully updated. Some of them are to the nines and they're fabulous, but others of them are going to have all original everything, which leaves a great opportunity for a value add situation. So the takeaway here is that if you want to live in Bremerton, but maybe not Bremerton proper, maybe not downtown. You want a little bit more room, little space, trees, nature, water. Tracyton might be a great option for you, which still gives you easy access to the ferry, but also to Silverdale, where all of the major shopping is going to be. The next suburb of Bremerton we're going to explore is Kitsap Lake. Kitsap Lake is not a neighborhood I have discussed yet on this channel, and I'm actually wondering why, because it's a pretty cool neighborhood. Kitsap Lake is in West Bremerton. Kitsap Lake itself is one of the biggest, if not the biggest lake in Kitsap County, aptly named. Kitsap Lake is west of Highway 3. It's in between Bremerton proper and Seabeck, I would say. That's kind of a large geographical area, but if you were to look on a map, you would see what I mean. Kitsap Lake is sort of a mid-century-ish neighborhood, so lots of homes built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and then it has one distinct neighborhood called Dockside, which was built in the 80s and 90s. Dockside is, as the name would suggest, right on Kitsap Lake with docks and things. And there's homes that are lakefront, but it's also built on a hill, and so most of the homes up that hill are going to have a lake view, along with western-facing Big Mountain view. So it's a pretty lovely neighborhood. For the time it was built, it was considered very upscale and luxury. Kitsap Lake has a public boat launch, a public park, cool fishing, outdoor opportunity to hang out down there. It's a great place for like birthday parties and that sort of thing. The market snapshot for the Kitsap Lake area: in the last 6 months, 10 homes have sold, which isn't a lot. Obviously, it's more than Tracyton, but for such a large geographical area, not a lot. And actually, most of those were in Dockside. Dockside's having a big turnover right now, or it did. Average price point's about $650, and days on market's about 37. So similar to Tracyton in those regards. Again, Dockside homes are going to maybe be a little bit more expensive than the surrounding neighborhoods. So that might skew the data just a little bit. So if we had maybe a healthy snapshot of like a year or 2 years or whatever, just to kind of see what the rest of the area is doing, that might give you a better idea. But for the most part, you can find really great homes in the 4s and 500s in the Kitsap Lake area. And then if you're wanting a bigger home and with a view and that sort of thing to spend more money, Dockside may be a great opportunity for you. There are waterfront properties on the west side of the lake where you'd have an eastern facing view, so you'd get the sunrises and stuff, but you wouldn't have a view of the mountains, just the lake. People who might be buying in the Kitsap Lake area are going to be families who want a good commute. Maybe you're stationed at Naval Hospital Bremerton, which is like right across the freeway. You have very easy access to Silverdale and Bremerton proper, so you just hop on Kitsap Way, you go north, it turns into Chico Way, which takes you all the way to Silverdale. If you hop on Kitsap Way going the other direction, it takes you into town. So like Bremerton proper, kind of that sort of area. Kitsap Way is a major thoroughfare through West Bremerton. Kitsap Lake Elementary is one of the highest rated elementary schools in the Bremerton School District. I highly encourage you to look that up. There's another school called Crown Hill, which is over on Rocky Point, which I believe those two kind of like waver back and forth on which one's got the top seed in Bremerton School District, but I encourage you to do that research on your own. Kitsap Lake is a smart choice if you want a water adjacent feel, easy water access if you don't have direct water front with that public park and boat launch, but still be relatively in the mix of things. You're not far from anywhere in Bremerton, but also you have super quick access to Seabeck. So if you wanted to go to Scenic Beach State Park or Guillemot Cove or somewhere out in Seabeck, you're super close to that as well. The next suburb of Bremerton we're going to talk about is Seabeck itself. I just mentioned that in the Kitsap Lake portion, but Seabeck is the entire western portion of Kitsap County, and it is geographically enormous. Seabeck is on the Hood Canal. The Hood Canal divides Kitsap County and Jefferson County, and also home to the most fantastic, stunning western-facing mountain and water views of anywhere in Kitsap County. Seabeck is not going to be the place you want to buy if you're looking for convenience, because it is going to be a drive. It's also going to be in the wintertime, kind of weather dependent on if you can leave your house or not. I like to say that Seabeck gets the first and the worst weather because most of our snowstorms come in from the Pacific Ocean. They're coming in, west. And so they hit Seabeck first. So Seabeck gets a ton of snow, roads closed, trees down, the whole nine. And because it's so far away and because so many of the roads are private roads and not county maintained, they're kind of the last roads to be addressed in terms of if power is restored, if a tree is removed out of the way, shoveled snow, all all of this stuff. So it can be a mess. If you're used to that stuff, then it's not a big deal. Seebeck does not have a downtown. It doesn't have a city center. It has a little general store, which is like, you know, like grocery, but also like fish tackle and that sort of thing. Has a little pizza place. Seebeck is not the place you want to be if you need to commute to Seattle on a daily basis, because it's about a 30-minute drive from Seebeck to the ferry, maybe longer at some points, like way out at Holly, like you could be driving 45 minutes to get to the ferry. Seebeck is for people who are looking for space, acreage, room to breathe, like, I mean, real acreage. There's properties out there on the market right now that have like 20 plus acres on that. So big properties, lots of horse property out there. Just be forewarned, internet can be slow in places, cell service can be spotty in places, because a lot of places don't have cable and certainly don't have fiber. So you're using CenturyLink or HughesNet or satellite, or in some cases, people are opting into the Starlink network. So there are options for high-speed internet, but the infrastructure isn't there yet. Seebeck's a smart move if you want that decompressed lifestyle, if you want a nice, leisurely, winding drive home, and you can get out of your car, get on your porch, and sip your hot tea or whatever you're drinking for the evening, and just enjoy nature and enjoy the scenery. Market snapshot for Seebeck. In the last 6 months, 19 homes have sold, which is considerable, considered Kitsap Lake sold 10, Tracyton sold 5, so Seebeck sold 19. I almost feel like that's low. I feel like that's low. But the last 6 months have been, you know, the market's been kind of weird. Average price point, $798,000. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. There are several $1 million properties out there, along with more standard middle class, you know, run of the mill between $400,000 and $500,000 homes as well. Days on market is a little bit higher at 53, not terrible, but still homes are taking a little bit longer to sell out there. I will say, if you get the rare property that comes on that has a gorgeous flat acreage, 5 acres or more of flat, usable, already cleared, you know, already has a shop, already has whatever else you need on it, like those homes sell very, very quickly. Obviously, the higher in price you go, the smaller the buyer pool, so those homes tend to sit a little longer. The next suburb of Bremerton we're going to talk about is Manchester. So Manchester is actually part of Port Orchard. You're going to have a Port Orchard address if you live in Manchester. Manchester is this north-facing peninsula in South Kitsap. So on one side, you can see the shipyard and all of Bremerton and parts of Bainbridge Island. And on the other side, you have views of Seattle skyline and city front and all of that stuff from Manchester State Park. And then if you keep going a little bit further, you can see Mount Rainier. So it has wonderful 270-degree views. People who are buying in Manchester are going to buy for the location because it is kind of removed. It takes a while to get out there. So again, like Seebeck, it's not for convenience. People are not living there because they want an easy commute. Manchester feels like a quiet little village because it's so removed. It's got its own little downtown section there that's super duper cute. It's about a block big. So, I mean, it's tiny. It's just a few businesses and restaurants and things. And then there's Manchester State Park, which is great. So for that smaller community feel, it does have the basics, like it does have a post office, it does have a library, it does have an elementary school, and it's going to appeal to people who just want a quiet, waterfront adjacent lifestyle, who don't need to commit to a busy commute. I mean, often lots of people do, but don't necessarily need to be in the middle of all the action all the time. If you need to commute by ferry, you're probably going to go to the Southworth ferries just a little bit down the road from Manchester, also Port Orchard, which takes you to Fauntleroy on Vashon Island, and then ultimately West Seattle. Manchester's super busy. In the last 6 months, it's had 40 homes sold. So that's quite a lot. It's higher turnover than lots of other neighborhoods. It's also geographically kind of big, so that may account for that. It's going to be a little bit denser than areas like Seebeck, even though it's a little bit more removed. It's going to be a little bit more urban and denser while still maintaining a very peaceful lifestyle. Average days on market was 65. So we're climbing even higher into the days on market now. Why Manchester is underrated or often gets overlooked is because people probably don't even know it's there. It's part of Port Orchard. So like I said, you're going to have a Port Orchard address and it's kind of far removed. So like all the locals know it's there. It's just not something that people who are new to this area kind of know to even look for. Manchester is worth touring if you want a quiet, water adjacent lifestyle. Don't necessarily need to pay a premium for what you're buying. I mean, none of us do, right? And with that higher turnover, you're going to probably have more options than some of the other places that we talked about. The next suburb of Bremerton we're going to talk about is the township of Olalla. Olalla is South Kitsap County. It is is its own zip code. It's not Port Orchard, so you're gonna have a straight up Olalla address, and it is in between Port Orchard and Gig Harbor. The great thing about Olalla is that you have all of this eastern facing luxury property, and it's kind of off the radar. It's kind of off the map. Nobody really knows to look there, but it's got this wonderful rural community vibe. It's got its own vineyard. It's got this beautiful Olalla Bay market, huge properties, and you can take advantage of everything that is in Port Orchard and everything that's in Gig Harbor because you're right smack dab between the two. You wouldn't even know Olalla was there unless somebody told you it was there. It's right on Poulsbo Passage. It's this beautiful non-shipping lane, so you're not going to see ferries. You're just going to see like sailboats and motorboats and that sort of thing. Olalla is going to be for somebody who maybe has some animals like livestock or horses or that sort of thing, because there's plenty of properties that are set up to accommodate for that. It's going to be somebody who wants complete separation from like the day-to-day hustle and bustle of any kind of urban downtown or city. A lot of people who live in Olalla and South Kitsap in general commute to like Tacoma for work. So Tacoma is a pretty large city. I think it's considered a small city because the population's like under 250, like barely, but still it's a city. People who tend to live in South Kitsap County, whether it's Olalla or Port Orchard, only tend to live in South Kitsap. They never really move to Bremerton or north of Bremerton, and vice versa. People who live in Bremerton, Central or North Kitsap never tend to live in South Kitsap. So there's kind of a divide there. So people who live in Olalla are going to be like the same kind of people who want to live in like Tracyton, for example, because it's similar properties, similar waterfront, all these things, but like completely different locations. So it's going to attract completely different people. 6-month snapshot of the Olalla real estate market. 20 homes sold in Olalla in the last 6 months. So not a ton. And the average price point was around $657. So that's going to include homes that sold for $400, and that's going to include homes that sold for like $1.2 million. Average days on market was 40 days. So not terrible, enough to get exposure, enough for buyers to kind of like be discerning and take their time and make their decision. People who are not wanting to look in Olalla, those people are looking for like a true neighborhood. So Olalla is not going to feel like a true neighborhood. You may have like some streets here and there that feel like that, but there's not going to be any planned unit developments. There's not going to be like, you know, sidewalks where you ride your bikes around and that sort of thing. Olalla is a smart fit if you want space, if you want privacy, a slower daily rhythm, and you're willing to trade some convenience to get that. So if you don't mind, you know, a 15-minute drive to the freeway, then that's not an issue for you. Olalla is a great alternative to people who are looking at Gig Harbor. I mentioned previously, Gig Harbor is a very affluent community and it's in Pierce County. So Olalla is in Kitsap, Gig Harbor is in Pierce, the county line's right in the middle there. And people looking in Gig Harbor are, you know, the cheapest home in Gig Harbor is like $950. The average price point is pretty darn high. So Olalla makes a great alternative to that because the same home in Olalla is going to be more affordable. Your dollar's going to go a lot farther. So there are a lot of affluent families who are spilling over from Gig Harbor into Olalla. So I know all of these areas and locations and what is she talking about all this? I don't know what the Olympics are. I don't know what Mount Rainier is like. I don't know where these landmarks and stuff. So go ahead and hop into the description, download my relocation guide. It'll tell you all about all the different areas all over Kitsap County so you can get a better idea of where they are and what kind of lifestyle these locations lead and attract. The last area we're going to talk about today is Indianola. Indianola is this teeny tiny little square of a community in North Kitsap. It's in between Poulsbo and Squamish, and it's just kind of like tucked in there, and you would totally miss it if you blinked. It's so small. It feels more like a retreat than like a neighborhood. Like it's going to be, you're going to drive through the trees. It's going to be like this beautiful tree canopy, and it's going to be in the woods, and you're going to be so far away from everything. That's what it feels like, but you're actually not too far from anything. So Squamish isn't far. It has its own little township, and then there's Kingston, which is a little bit north and a little bit east, and that's got a beautiful little downtown. And then right across the bridge is Bainbridge Island. So you're really not far, but it just feels far and just so gorgeous. Indianola is really polarized in terms of its real estate because it has, you know, normal single family homes in the 400s and 500s. And then you have the Indianola Fit, which is this little curly Q sandbar that has $2 and $3 million homes built on it. And these homes never sell. I think I've seen one on the market in the last 2 years. So you'll have these $2 million million homes selling, and then the rest of the real estate's like 400 to 500. So it's really polarized in terms of that. And again, these homes on that little sand spit in Indianola are less likely to go on the market and more likely just to be handed down to family and stay in the family. If you need access to Seattle, your best bet is probably going to take the Kingston Edmonds ferry. You can drive down to the Bainbridge ferry, which takes you into Seattle versus Edmonds. It's just going to be a longer commute on this side versus the Seattle side, depending on where you need to go. The real estate market in Indianola is pretty slow. Only 9 homes sold in Indianola in the last 6 months. Average price point was about $618. So we kind of like had a little bit higher. Remember I said like some are 400, some are million. There was one off-market property sale at 2.75 million, which I did not include in those averages just because it sold off market. So it doesn't really count in those averages. Average days on market was 29. So not terrible. So it's a slower paced market. Slower, like I would say slower turnover just because it had only 9 homes in the last 6 months, but it's like a super tiny area. So there's not a lot of homes to turn over. Indianola is super easy to overlook because a lot of people think it's just Poulsbo, which the line is kind of fuzzy, whether it's a Poulsbo address or an Indianola address in some areas. So that's something just to pay attention to. A lot of people who are living here and moving here obviously have heard of Poulsbo. Not a lot of people have heard of Indianola or Squamish or Kingston or Hansville or any of these other North Kitsap communities like Port Gamble. Port Gamble's another one of those where you blink and you miss it. It's got a really cool museum though. Indianola is a great fit if you want quiet living, coastal living. You don't necessarily want to see your neighbors and there's a bunch of trees in between you. Affordable living on some end, but if you are looking for luxury, there's definitely luxury to be had. You just have to be patient. So if you're moving to Bremerton, it's really important to understand that you have options. There are other places to live besides Bremerton if this does not turn out to be the right fit for you. We only discussed like 6 or 7 in this video, but there are plenty. So whether you're looking for like commute is your top factor, or yard size or yard usability is your top factor, or schools are your top factor, let's narrow it down from there and find the best place and work around that. And don't forget to grab a copy of my relocation guide, the first link in the description below. It's going to tell you all about all the neighborhoods so you can kind of get a snapshot before you really start looking. And if you're already there to that point where you are looking, schedule a meeting with me. We'll call it a strategy session and we'll schedule a call that narrows down exactly what you're looking for and how I can help you get it. I'm Cassandra Lopez. I help buyers and sellers buy and sell all over Kitsap County, Silverdale, Poulsbo, Port Orchard, and all the places we mentioned today. If you are in the market to buy or sell a house, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll package up all your criteria in a nice, neat little box and find the best place for you. Bye for now.